What's going on, YouTubers? This is Buddy coming at you. Another quick video on my 65-gallon mixed reef. I wanted to show you my lighting cycle and how I go about lighting this saltwater aquarium. So basically we're going to get to it here in a second. But like I've said before, I run the Ecotech Radion Gen 3 Pros over this aquarium. And I absolutely love those lights, I really do. So, and I want to touch on one other thing. You'll see that my green star polyps are missing a patch. That's because I fragged some of them off and put them in the aquarium upstairs. And you'll see right above the green star polyps, that section right there. I did change it from the last video. I had it switched. I switched it around a little bit, and I decided to go with that, even though I don't like to switch my aquascape once it's set. But I was trying to get a little more flow over in that section. So I thought by mixing that up a little bit, I could get a little more water movement in there, because I do have that little spot there where the overflow box is. Now, remind you, let me make this really clear really fast. This is a custom 65-gallon aquarium. I did this myself. I built that overflow myself and everything, the overflow box. I didn't want it close to the wall, which I should have done that. I don't know why I didn't. But at the time I was thinking, oh, you know, I don't want it close to the wall. If I put it there, it'll help my aquascaping. I didn't want it in the center because I wanted to have that big island right there, and I didn't want that island touching the glass. So I thought it was a good spot when I first did the tank, but now that I realize I should have did the corner overflow, but I didn't, and that is what it is. So to solve that issue, I just ran a power head. You'll see the cord down behind those rocks there to ensure that I'm getting good water movement back in there, and I put the aquascape back the way it originally was. And I moved that torch coral and the toadstool around because that section right there gets a little bit more water movement, and I figured the toadstool would like a little bit less water flow by having him there. He seems to be opened a lot more and really enjoying that section, and the torch coral is really loving all that water flow there. Alright, so on to the lighting schedule. Now I'm on my laptop here. Let me get it to focus. So this is my laptop, and you'll see my arc. I feel like this is the most natural way to have a lighting cycle. Have this arc here. This is how the sun works. It works in a half moon, so to speak. So I wanted to implement the most natural approach as far as a lighting cycle goes. So I've never showed you guys my lighting program, so I wanted to go about showing you this here. So, and you can implement this if you have T5s or metal halides. You can implement the same type of arc by having some bulbs come on throughout the day and having some bulbs go off throughout the day. So let me scroll down here. My lighting cycle is a 12-hour photo period, very long. So the way for me to implement a 12-hour lighting period and still have the corals be very healthy. Basically, the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm trying to implement a more natural, I'm trying to implement a photo period that is found over, a longer photo period that's found over most reefs throughout the world. So by 9 o'clock the lights are at 0. By 10:30 my lighting comes on. Let me scroll this down, hold on. Let me set this up so I can run through this pretty quick. I want to show you the wattage too. Alright, so you can still see that. Alright, hold on guys, bear with me. Alright, so you can still see the arc. So by 10:30 I have my UV spectrum at 100. I have my royal blue at 50, my blue at 25, my whites, greens, and reds are at 0. My watt consumption is 18%. Alright, so by 11:30, an hour later, it changes. Is this going to happen every single freaking time? God damn it. Alright, so every single time I have to adjust this because this thing's a pain in my ass. My UV is still at 100. My royal blue is now up to 70. My blue is at 40. My whites are still at 0, and I have my greens at 9, and my reds are at 24%, which gives me a total watt consumption of 25%. This is by 11:30. Now by 12 o'clock, it's going to happen every fucking time. So by 12 o'clock you'll see that my UV's at 100, my royal blue's at 100, my blue is at 74, my whites are now coming on, they're at 15%, greens 15, reds are at 38%, my watt consumption is 37%. So now we're going to go to 1 o'clock here, and this is where the photo period starts to brighten and the intensity starts to creep up. So you'll see my royal blue, or my UV's at 100, my royal blue's at 100, my blue's at 100, my whites are at 37, greens 17, reds are at 37. My watt consumption is 45 watts consumed. That's my watt consumption at this point. So now this is the brightest part of the day. It is at 3 o'clock. Excuse me. So this is the brightest part of the day for me. It is at 3 o'clock. And the watt consumption is 56%. Royal UV's at 100, royals at 100, blues at 100, whites at 100. My greens are at 18 and my reds are at 20. Now that's the brightest part of the day. Now it's basically what it does is it ramps up to the brightest part and then slowly ramps back down. So my brightest part of the day isn't bright for very long, but it is enough for the zooxanthellae that live within the coral to get the required lighting that they require through the day. If your lighting is too intense for too long of the day, you'll actually hinder photosynthesis, and you'll actually do damage to the zooxanthellae that the coral houses with inside the coral. So basically what we're trying to do is implement the right lighting for the zooxanthellae that live within inside the coral. So if the corals get too much light, what happens is it causes the coral to release all their zooxanthellae and causes them to bleach out. So I like to implement this more natural approach, and this is how the sun has this half moon mark, half moon arch. That's how it is in nature. That's how the sun illuminates the sky as it comes over the sky, gets to its brightest point, and then it comes back down to nighttime. So these points are all identical to over here before the light shuts off. Now, one other thing I want to show you is I do have lunar phase set, and I feel that that is very important. Instead of just having a moonlight run all the time, what the hell? Alright, hold on guys, let me close this out. This damn thing's a pain in my ass. I do have lunar phase set. Instead of having the moonlight on all the time, having a lunar phase I feel is very important, because this is when corals do their sexual reproduction. They follow the moonlight to do their sexual reproduction. Now you can implement this too without having the Ecotech Radion program. You can implement this just by having, 4 days out of the month have your moonlights come on, only 4 days out of the month, 4 consistent days, something like that, and have yourself have a lunar phase. And that actually, I feel, is very beneficial for sexual reproduction with the corals. Now, so that's my lighting cycle. This arc I find very important, and I think you should try to implement that in your lighting if you can. It's, in my opinion, it's the most natural way to light a saltwater reef aquarium. So now let's go over to the main display tank here. I'll let you see the tank before I sign out. You'll see my toadstool is shedding, and you'll see that I'm missing a significant amount of corals, about 20 of them. I put them in the 20-gallon long upstairs. So there's about 20 taken out of here, 20 frags. It might be hard to tell, but I noticed it. The tank looks bare to me. It looks empty. There's nothing in it. It's driving me crazy. And one other thing that I want to do is I want to bring this bubble coral out. You'll see that bubble coral is huge. It's a massive pearl bubble coral. It's beautiful, huge. But when you look at the tank, it's hidden. I hate that. It drives me nuts. I want that coral out. So if anybody has any ideas on where I could put that bubble, I would really like to showcase it. But I absolutely love all the corals that I have showcased. The only reason why I don't put the green star polyps back there and put this over here is because the bubble does have sweeper tentacles and it can sting other corals. So as of right now, that was my safest bet. Unless I take this rock and push it back and then pull the bubble out in front, would probably be the only solution I could come up with as far as displaying that beautiful, huge pearl bubble. I mean, it's huge, man. It's got to be 10 inches by 10 inches. It's a massive bubble, huge bubble coral. Alright guys, so like I said, this is a custom 65 gallon. It's actually about 72 gallons of water. It's actually, a 65 is 36 inches long. Mine's 40 inches long. I always refer to it as a 65 gallon. I don't want to get into the whole specs of everything. So it's a 65 gallon mixed reef, but it's actually about 72 gallons of water. But whatever, 65 gallon mixed reef, we're sticking with that. So, but it is a custom aquarium that I had done, and I built the overflow myself. So I'll show you the sump really quick. It does look a little reddish, orangish because of the way I have the camera set to highlight the corals. So basically everything's still the same. I'm not growing any macroalgae in here because I am carbon dosing, which I might back off the carbon dosing. I don't know if I'm going to continue doing it. The only reason why I did it was to have the nitrates at a specific level. I didn't just want low nitrates, I wanted them at a specific level. I guess you guys can say hi to my dog. This is my Old English Bulldog. He's a pain in my butt. He always gets, every time I'm next to the tank, he becomes a pain. So, you know, I don't know if I'm going to, I don't know. Whatever. That's the reason why I started carbon dosing, because I wanted my nitrates at a specific level, and the specific level was 2.7 parts per million. That was where I wanted the nitrates, and I wanted them to stay consistently at 2.7 parts per million. Alright, so just a quick recap for anybody that's building a sump or getting in the hobby. I've had people ask me questions, how much water do you put in your sump? Basically, you just want to have the water to where it flows over all the baffles, and then just set your water line in your sump. And it's going to depend on the type of sump you have too. I mean, some sumps require you to have the protein skimmer in this last chamber, so you'll have to have the water set at the specific specs of that protein skimmer, guys. So but this is basically where my water sits, and you want to ensure that when you shut your main display tank off, that when the back siphon brings the water back down to the sump, it doesn't overflow your sump. So just keep that in mind, guys. For specifically the people that have asked me the questions, how much water should you put in your sump? It all depends on the sump, the size of the sump, and the way it's set up. Alright guys, so I hope this helped. So I'll just give you a couple shots of my sump, just so maybe you can use this as a guideline. You'll see the water travels over that baffle. Alright, Spike, back up. And then travels over that baffle there, right there, where the water comes down. And then I have the water line set here at about 8 inches. I like to make sure there's at least 4 inches of water above the return pump, so it can't suck in any bubbles, suck in any air, because it can cause a turbulence and suck in air, especially if you have a powerful return pump, which I do. I have a 1,200 gallon per hour return pump, very powerful. But when you take into account for the head pressure and stuff, I'm not getting 1,200 gallons per hour out of it, not even close. Alright guys, so this is Buddy coming at you, another quick video on a 65 gallon mixed reef and my lighting cycle. Alright, peace.